Hard act to follow there. You know, I was aware of the numbers, but I've never seen the film, and they did not tell me that they were going to start it off with that film. So I find it interesting that my comments go relatively well with what you just saw. Those who seek favored treatment for a particular group have been quick to call anyone who opposes the idea of this privileged class entitled to ignore laws that they disagree with racist. It cuts off debate. It keeps the public ignorant. And that's why I typically start by saying, hey, my comments have nothing to do with race, color, or country of origin. Nothing to do with that. And in fact, I hardly ever talk about legal immigration. It's not my issue. In fact, what difference does it make what our legal laws are since we've encouraged so many people to ignore them? Besides, as a student of history, I have no doubt that legal immigrants make some of our best citizens. They know what the rest of the world is like. They chose to come here and adopt our customs, our laws, our culture. They want to be one of us. They respect this country. They love this country. And in fact, I'm staying with some friends, Paul and Sue Perdue. Paul is a legal immigrant, and if you've talked to him, you know he makes me sound very mild on this subject. My concern is really the whole set of rules that have been set up to make legal immigrants jump through hoops, and in the meantime, we simply ignore the millions of people pouring across the border and the millions of people who come here to visit us and sort of forget to go home, and the government has done absolutely nothing about it. Our beloved country is in great peril, but the danger actually is not created by the poor, law-abiding, other than coming here illegally, citizens who are escaping poverty and corruption. I don't blame them for wanting to come here. If your family's starving, you're going to want to go where you can feed them. That's not our problem. Our problem comes, and our threat comes, from greedy Americans who profit from exploiting those people. I call those greedy Americans the new plantation bosses because they're people so in love with cheap labor, they close their eyes to its side effects. They're profiting, and they use those profits to insulate themselves from the problems they are creating. They can afford the gated communities. They're not as affected by the crime. But just like the old plantation bosses that lived in big houses, they're oblivious to the havoc that they are going to reap, the problems that they are clearly causing. The threat also comes from publishers and politicians who want to be friends with the new plantation bosses because they like their money. I'm sorry, but there's no clearer way to say it. You know, most people know about the Civil War, but how many realize that the justifications used for slavery, we need those people for our economy, are the very same ones being used to justify the amnesty bill that's being discussed in Congress? And last but certainly not least, the threat comes from academics who have embraced socialism to such a degree that they no longer teach love of this country, its history, the importance of the Bill of Rights, and they no longer really believe in the importance of objective truth, God-given liberties. Some of them no longer believe in God, and it shows. In order to avoid repeating points made by other speakers, because obviously we're all here on the same subject, I'm just going to try to hit quickly on several topics I don't think the other speakers will likely be covering. One of them is the completely misleading study done by UNC professors to mislead the public about the cost of illegal immigration. One is the way the press lied about the Wilmington riots to mislead the public 100 years ago into letting the Democratic Party take over the North Carolina government so thoroughly that a lot of people don't realize that Republicans haven't really passed a law in this state in 100 years because they couldn't without the permission of the Democrats. And the last one is the driver's license issue, which is what got me into this debate in the first place. First, the UNC study, and I'll try to be relatively brief. The information is available online. I've left copies of a magazine out in the foyer that you can pick up on the way out. Please, one per customer, because I don't want to run out. A couple of years ago, I wrote an article for the first issue of the magazine put out by the John William Pope Civitas Institute, and it's available at their website. The article was about the high cost of illegal immigration to North Carolina. It's pretty well documented, footnoted, and all that good stuff. A couple of years later, actually less than that, some UNC professors issued a study which claimed to show the economic impact of Hispanic immigration on North Carolina. They said the cost was only $102 per immigrant. Now, the press ignored the documented work that I did, but they have ballyhooed the UNC study all over the country, all over the world, and there's just one problem. Anybody of any intelligence who reads the study and thinks about it knows it's phony as a $3 bill. Well, it's not the kind of fanfare that was supposed to get, but it was The authors of the study, the UNC professors, were actually selected by the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and the Mexican Consulate, and there's every indication that they knew the result before the study was done. I got upset when I first read it because it gave a number for the cost of educating they didn't distinguish between legal and illegal. It gave the cost of educating Hispanic students. And as a former chair of the education committee, it's like, where did you pull this number out of the air? It's nonsense. It's way too low. The study itself said 54% of the new students in this state were Hispanic, and the number didn't include cost of constructing classrooms, just to give you an idea of how far off it was. I called the authors and I asked, where'd you get your number? They told me, and I looked in the North Carolina budget where they got the number, and right on the chart they used, it had state budget funding, but it also had local taxes and federal taxes, which I could have sworn were coming from North Carolina residents. And they didn't use those numbers. They didn't really think it mattered that the number they used was worthless. And so I looked at health care, and I looked at criminal justice costs, and they were just as worthless. They ignored as many costs as they could, and they still found that Hispanic immigration cost money. But more importantly, they blurred the distinction between legal immigrants and illegal immigrants. I'm more than willing to concede that the people who have come here legally pay their way. But there's no way that the study as a whole is true. For example, they said they're going to get the net cost, so they included all these offsets, including a made-up multiplier, but they included all of the taxes that were collected, including local taxes. Wait a minute. They didn't include any of the local costs that the local taxes were paying, but they used the local taxes and offset to the state costs. How dumb do you have to be to do something like that? Well, obviously, it's not a matter of being dumb. It's a matter of having a point of view that you're selling. And after I did the magazine article, this is not in the article, it's not yet online, but I think it'll get around the state. I learned because of the student loan scandal. You know, they're a little bit concerned that university employees might be cheating students on their student loans because they're getting kickbacks from the people that are making the loans. Well, because of that, I discovered that W. Stephen Jones, the dean of the Keenan Flagler Business School at UNC Chapel Hill, which did the study, earned $356,393 last year for serving on the board of Bank of America. And the UNC system spokesperson said, we don't see a conflict with the deans serving on the board. Did they see a problem with totally phony scholarship designed to mislead the public? Apparently not. Haven't heard from anybody. Another item